old when she moved to Canada with her family, and they settled in the neighborhood in the east end of Montreal. She later moved to Ottawa, where she met Mr. Pierre Poilievre, and the two were married in 2017. Anna has worked as a political analyst and is co-founder of Pretty and Smart Company, a lifestyle website that empowers women. She is the proud mother to their two children, Valentina and Cruz. She plays an active role in our conservative movement. And she is the #1 supporter of her husband. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Anna Poilievre.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here in Ottawa. It's good to be here. This is where I met my husband. This is where our children are born, so it's really good to be home. As you know, my husband is not home much lately, right? He's been traveling coast to coast to coast. He's been on the ground, away from the Ottawa bubble, to hear out what people have to say, to truly really understand the challenges that everyday Canadians are facing today. A single mother who's struggling to put food on the table and who literally has to pick between heating her house or paying rent. Because she can't keep up with inflation and all of these new taxes. And now, on April 1st, the carbon tax is making everything more expensive. That's right. A young man who has a family member that's ill, that wishes he could visit the family member, but a tank of gas is just something he cannot afford. Les Canadiens savent que le prix sur le carbone, c'est quelque chose qui va vraiment frapper à tout le monde. Parce que conduire vos enfants à l'école, conduire pour aller travailler, n'est pas un luxe. C'est une nécessité. Et c'est les gens qui souffrent le plus présentement qui sont punis. C'est pourquoi il faut abolir la taxe sur le carbone. Canadians know that heating your home, driving your children to school, driving yourself to work, it is not a luxury. It is a necessity. And that is why we must axe the tax. It's good to be here home because my husband is home. And as you know, he's not often here. And it might be something that sometimes it is difficult for our children and I. But when my husband comes home after a long trip and I see pain and hope all at once, I see pain from all the stories he heard because the struggle is real, ladies and gentlemen. It is real. But I see hope because Canadians are standing up stronger than ever, and we are looking for a change. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is hope coming on the way. Yes, that tax. A young boy from Calgary that was adopted by 2 school teachers from Saskatchewan, and a young woman, an immigrant from Venezuela who came here. Both of our families, they live paycheck to paycheck and they work really hard. Our families, my brother a carpenter, my sister a nurse, we understand the struggle. So we are here to tell you that our family stands with all of you, and that it is my pleasure to share with you my husband, the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you. Bring it home. Who's ready to spike the hike? Who's ready to axe the tax? Our little guy Cruz is up here today. He just finished his soccer season. He got a nice medal. His sister already took it away from him. And she's the custodian of it right now. She might make an appearance later on. But Anna and I are honored to be here with a couple of thousand great national capital friends who are ready to bring it home and axe the tax. Donc, on est très fiers d'être ici à Ottawa, là où j'ai été élu, pour partager notre message de gros bon sens, de couper taxes et impôts, bâtir des logements, repérer le budget et stopper le crime. Qui est prêt pour le gros bon sens? Thank you. Some great memories in Ottawa. I was elected here almost exactly 20 years ago. You remember that? Was anybody there that day I was nominated in Nepean? Yes, that was quite a day. The first day I knocked on doors, I was 24 at the time, but looked like I was 14. And the guy opened the door. His name is Bill Ayed. Is Bill here today? No, Bill's not here. Bill opened the door and he said to me, we don't have any cans to donate to the Boy Scouts. But anyway, somehow we managed to get nominated. We even have Lucille Pakalnis, my longest-standing employee. She responded. Yes, Lucille Pakalnis. Responded to probably 1 million pieces of correspondence in my office. An incredibly hard worker. And I want to thank the great people of Carleton who are here today in this neighboring location. Some Carleton residents. Population is growing in Carleton. People have been moving there for the superior parliamentary representation. And we're very happy to celebrate with the people of Carleton, but future members of Parliament. So far, I am the chair of the Ottawa Conservative Caucus, because I am the only member, but I think that's about to change, right? We have common sense Conservative candidate, former member of the Armed Forces, and now two-term City Councillor, Matt Luloff. Give him a round of applause. Way to go. We have former police officer and common sense conservative candidate ready to axe the tax for Nepean, Barbara Ball. Nepean, a great place to be in. And she will be neighbored by the future common sense conservative member of parliament for Canada, former paramedic, which means he knows how to respond to an emergency. We're going to need that for our future member of parliament coming to Parliament Hill, and that is Greg Kung, future member of parliament who will be leading the charge on Parliament Hill on behalf of the people in the west end of our great city. And yes, you can give him a round of applause. Give all of them a round of applause one more time. So look at this. We've got 7 days, 9 hours, and 41 minutes until Justin Trudeau hikes the carbon tax by 23%. A tax on the food you buy, the heat you use, and the gas you put in your vehicle. A tax that will hit the lowest income people the hardest. A tax that will impoverish our nation and blow a 20... Who's ready to axe the tax? Axe the tax. 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 The good news is there has been an outbreak of common sense right across this country, as now 7 provincial premiers and almost every provincial political party in Canada has announced its opposition to the carbon tax. Every single one of them. Even here in Ontario, the Liberal leader, the newly elected Liberal leader, has now flip-flopped. She claims that she, too, is against the carbon tax. In Nova Scotia, the provincial NDP, Liberals, and Conservatives unanimously called on their federal MPs to do the right thing and vote against the April 1st carbon tax hike. There's only one provincial party in Canada that is overtly supporting the carbon tax, and that is the NDP in British Columbia. Shame on them. But we're mounting a nationwide campaign that has thus far included rallies in towns, villages, and hamlets. We will be protesting outside the offices of Liberal MPs, urging them to do the right thing. We're asking you to share our posts, sign our petitions, encourage your neighbors and friends to do the same thing. Let's mount a massive pressure campaign to stop Justin Trudeau's tax hike in just over a week. And there's another thing you can do. You can buy some of Anna's amazing merch. Look at this stuff. Look at that. What do you think? You like that? Great design. What an incredible design. And you put one of these on, you'll be the envy of your entire neighborhood. It'll be incredible. Can you imagine how people, we haven't got some people with the great merch here. Stand up if you're wearing the merch. Right on. Bring this guy up here, the guy with the blue baseball bat. I want a hat. Let's bring that up. Look at that. Look at that. What's that acronym?
I'm sorry?
What does that say? W?
WTF? Where's the funds?
Where's the funds? Can you imagine that? Nice. What a shirt, eh? You can go to bringithome.ca. Bringithome.ca. Here we go.
I would like to acknowledge Franco and Daniela, the small business owners here in Ottawa who are behind the merch. Thank you so much. Strong, working Italian family. Thank you.
So Anne has been volunteering her time to go in to Franco's shop where they actually do the printing. So we've got most of, not all of, most of the production line done here in Canada, and Franco has put this incredible merch together. Check out the hockey jersey from Stand up, stand up. Look at that, hockey jerseys, Go Bon Sens. Incredible. What's that? You can get yours at bringithome.ca, bringithome.ca. And we even have, do we have the mayor of Bayshore over here? Shirley, Mayor of Bayshore is here. Give Shirley a round of applause. Shirley used to call our friend Lowell Green every day and tell him what was going on in Bayshore. Shirley, thank you for your many years of service to the people of Bayshore, and here's a wonderful shirt for you. Many blessings. Let's axe the tax, sweetheart. Let's bring it home. So, first of all, let's study the context a little bit. What is the context in which Justin Trudeau plans to hike the carbon tax? After 8 years of Trudeau, he's doubled housing costs. He's made it so that the average Toronto family would have to save up for 25 years just to make a down payment on a home. It's 29 years in Vancouver. After 8 years of Trudeau, the rent has doubled, mortgage payments have doubled, down payments have doubled, prices for homes has gone up 40% faster than incomes. That is the biggest gap, the second biggest gap of all 40 OECD nations. Right now, Toronto has been rated by UBS Bank as the worst housing bubble in the world for 2022. Vancouver is the third most expensive place on planet Earth when you compare housing prices to median incomes. We have tent cities in every single town and village countryside of this country. We've got 35 homeless encampments in the beautiful city of Halifax. After 8 years of Trudeau, we have the RCMP writing a secret intelligence report warning that if people in Canada wake up to how broke they are, there might be an all-out revolt that could stabilize our institutions. That's not me saying it. That's the National Police Force that worries, that's done the math and noticed and calculated how brutally broke we are in this country after 8 years of a prime minister who's doubled the debt, who's given us the worst inflation in 4 decades, who's printed $600 billion of cash. My friends, the good news is life was not like this in Canada before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. Did you see his comments, though, the other day? He says life is really tough for him. You see that? It's really tough. Yeah, it's really tough to be him. Flying down to a beautiful private island, using a private jet paid for by taxpayers, pumping tons and tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere while he lectures little old ladies for heating their homes. Life is really tough. In fact, he says he thinks about quitting every day. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny, Justin, because we think about firing you every single day. Wow. And so what he's doing is actually not only harming our pocketbooks, but harming our environment at the same time, driving up the cost of production, farming, forestry, fisheries. He's driving production to more dirty, polluting foreign dictatorships. We in Canada, we want to bring the production home. That's why I keep saying bring it home, right? Let's go through it one by one. We've got farming. By raising the carbon tax up to, by 2030, it's going to be 150 grand in carbon taxes for every single farm in Canada. Yeah. We've got, for example, the great Carlton Mushroom Farm near Osgood, Ontario. They're already paying over $10,000 a month, an amount that's going to quadruple between now and 2030. Or you've got the Little Miracles of Manotick, Suntech tomatoes. Anybody have those before? The former owner walked me through how the carbon tax is being applied on the CO2 that he releases into his greenhouse, even though it's absorbed by the plant life. Apparently Trudeau missed that day in science class. The price signal that sends is for people to buy the Mexican tomato, which is more affordable in Manotick than the Manotick tomato. So we force our customers to buy a tomato that's transported by truck and train, burning fossil fuels right across North America, sending our money to another country that's more polluting, and sending our jobs away, making us more dependent on the rest of the world, when we have the 6th biggest supply of farmland per capita of any nation on earth. My common sense plan to axe the tax will lower costs for farmers. We will get off their backs by reducing paperwork and unnecessary red tape so that we can bring home food production to Canada and feed our people. There you go. Apples. We're going to grow beautiful apples. We grow beautiful apples right across the country. Amazing, amazing apples right across the country. Does anybody know how much, I already said it, I want to make sure you're listening. How much is the average farm going to spend on carbon tax by 2030? 150. All right, you win the apple. There you go. All right on. There you go. These are great. Are they great? Oh, little, what is this? Cruz wants an apple. C'est quoi ça, Cruz? C'est quoi ça?
C'est ses pommes.
Oui, bravo. Bravo, Cruz. He likes apples. I don't know where he got that from. Good stuff, eh? An apple a day will keep the woke journalists away. So we're going to grow more apples, grow more beautiful tomatoes, more mushrooms. We're going to, mushrooms. Trudeau should know about mushrooms, right? No, not magic mushrooms. You know how you grow mushrooms? The same way he manages his caucus. You keep them in the dark, feed them crap, and expect them to grow, right? But by axing the carbon tax, we're going to bring production back to our country. It's not just farmers, though. It's factories. The carbon tax is going to cost $500 million for Stelco Steel, the oldest steel plant in Canada. Over 100 years, those amazing steel workers have been supplying our economy with the metals that we need. But a $500 million carbon tax that will be paid by those workers, and that company will drive steel production out of our country into the hands of the American and, more importantly, the Chinese economy. We'll be bringing in more Chinese steel, exporting our jobs to faraway polluting countries, making our economy more dependent on others, weakening our dollar and therefore our purchasing power. By axing the carbon tax, we'll allow our production to return to this country so that we can make the steel on our land with our steel workers. Our good union steel workers will make that steel. Bring it home. Bring it home. Our aluminum, notre aluminium fait dans le Saguenay, c'est le moins polluant au monde. En fait, on produit 2 tonnes de CO2 pour chaque tonne de l'aluminium, en même temps que la Chine produit 14 tonnes de CO2 pour chaque tonne d'aluminium. In Saguenay, our aluminum workers, they emit 2 tons of greenhouse gases for every 1 ton of aluminum they make. In China, they do 7 times the emissions for every ton of aluminum. Wouldn't it be better for our global environment if we brought home more of the aluminum production to our country, all right? It's the same in forestry. You know they've invented this new technology. It's a 3D printer that sucks CO2 out of the atmosphere and turns it into a building material. They're called trees. Trees, incredible. It's a new green technology. I think they're invented in Canada, actually. And we build houses with them. By raising the carbon tax, we make it more expensive for our loggers to produce the products that build homes in the middle of a 5 million home housing shortage. The last thing we need to do is suppress forestry production, as the Liberals are now doing, as they contemplate a massive new attack on our forestry sector that they say is the only way to protect 5,000 caribou in Quebec. They want to shut down our forestry jobs. Ils veulent fermer nos emplois en foresterie au Québec et ailleurs au Canada parce qu'ils ne peuvent pas trouver une autre façon afin de sauver les caribous. Nous voulons repatrier cette production ici. Nous pensons que les gouvernements provinciaux peuvent protéger l'environnement en même temps que produire les produits de bois dont on aura besoin pour bâtir des maisons. We will bring home the food production, the forestry production, the fisheries production to this country by getting rid of the taxes and the regulations. And then there's fisheries. They're attacking our fisheries every day in every way. They don't want us to bring the radical environmentalist, Stéphane Guilbeault, does not even want us to take fish out of the seas. He's attacking our fisheries, making it more difficult for us to bring home the catch in the East Coast. The good news is we have great common sense conservative members from both the Atlantic and Pacific. They're standing up to axe the tax for our fish producers and to bring home more of the catch and put our local fishermen and fisherwomen in charge of the fisheries rather than the bureaucrats that have been trying to shut it down. Bring it home. And in fact, if we want to fight for the environment, it's not, our energy sector is not the problem, it is the solution. We're going to stand up for our energy sector. Let me give you one example. We have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas right beneath our feet. We don't export a single solitary cubic foot of it anywhere outside of North America. Why? Because there were 18 natural gas liquefaction plants proposed when Trudeau took office, and not a single one of them has been completed. Only one of them is under construction, and it's near completion in northern British Columbia, and that was approved by the previous Conservative government before the unconstitutional Bill C-69 came into effect, and was only possible because it had an exemption from the carbon tax. There are other projects that we could advance, but Trudeau says there's no business case. Well, nobody told the Americans who have completed 7 of these LNG plants in the same time period. Nobody told the Qataris, who not only house Hamas, but are doubling their production to supply Europe. Nobody told the Japanese Prime Minister and the German Chancellor, both of whom came to Canada specifically to ask for our natural gas, and Trudeau told them to go call Putin. Yeah. He's very good to Putin. Very good to Putin. I mean, I'm wondering, will Putin ever pay a commission back to Trudeau for all the money that Trudeau has shoveled into the Kremlin by forcing countries to buy Russian gas? I want a pro-Canada energy policy, not a pro-Russia energy policy. And we've got major advantages in natural gas. Major advantages in natural gas. One, we're shorter shipping distance to both Europe and Asia than is the U.S. Gulf Coast. Two, we have clean hydroelectricity to power the liquefaction facilities. And three, how do you liquefy gas? You cool it down. And what do we have in Canada? It's our most abundant natural resource, cold weather. In fact, it was so cold in Ottawa this past winter that Trudeau was seen with his hands in his own pockets. Truthfully, The engineers will tell you that it is 25% less energy intensive to liquefy gas in Canada than it is in a hot southern climate, because the cold naturally reduces the amount of energy and compression you have to do to liquefy the gas. And speaking of the environment, National Bank just came out, pointed out, Canada's emissions only account for 1.5% of global emissions, okay? So how can we actually help? We could shut down our entire economy and it wouldn't have a major impact. But what we could do is export our clean, green energy. For example, the Indian government plans to double coal fire production for its grid. National Bank finds that if we were to sell them natural gas instead, which is lower emitting, we could prevent 3.5 million tons of greenhouse gases from going into our atmosphere, which is more than, 3.5 billion tons of greenhouse gases from going into our atmosphere, which is 3.5 times what we produce as a country here in Canada right now. That is a far more pragmatic strategy to fight climate change. Let's sell our gas. So when I'm Prime Minister, we're going to grant fast permits for LNG. We're going to put it on a ship to Asia to displace dirty Asian coal. We're going to put it on a ship to Europe to break European dependence on Putin and turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home. We're going to bring home powerful paychecks to our people, but paychecks that preserve their purchasing power. We're going to do that by reducing the cost of government, which has been gobbling up our paychecks through inflation and high taxes. Let's go through it. The carbon tax is bad, but there's only one tax that's worse, and it's the inflation tax. The inflation tax is when government prints money to fund its spending, but ultimately drives up the cost of everything. They've increased the money supply by $600 billion. $600 billion is a 32% increase in the money supply, during which time the economy grew by 4%. So the money is growing 8 times faster than the stuff that money buys. That is just inflation, right? More money. If you have $10 and 10 apples, then it's $1 an apple. If you double the money supply to 20, but you still only have 10 apples, you're not twice as rich. It's just that each apple costs twice as much. That is inflation. That's how it works. It is everywhere and always a monetary phenomenon. Every time governments create inflation, they come up with a laundry list of other external excuses that none of them make any sense if you look at them carefully. They did this in the 70s as well. They blamed it on all kinds of unrelated global factors. But we know that it is government excess that is causing the inflation today. My common sense plan will put an end to government inflation by capping spending with a common sense dollar for dollar law that requires we find $1 of savings for every $1 of spending. That will allow the taxpayer and the economy to catch up with the cost of government. It will force politicians and bureaucrats to make common sense trade-offs. If you want to spend more on this, you have to spend less on that, or you have to get a bargain on both. That's how seniors, single moms, and small businesses budget. You've been pinching your pennies long enough. It's time government started pinching pennies too. Then we're going to cut the waste. We're going to get rid of the $35 billion infrastructure bank that hasn't completed a single solitary infrastructure program, right? We are going to get rid of the $60 million Arrive scam. That's the app on which the 76% of the contractors admit they did no work at all. Still got paid, though, many of them. The biggest contractor of all has been paid $250,000 across government. 4 guys headquartered in the basement of a cottage. Nice work if you can get it. For IT work, they admit they don't do any IT, and yet they got these massive contracts and payouts. We now know that the app should have cost 80 grand. There's a couple of IT workers that as a lark did it. They recrafted the app from scratch over a box of pizza and a case of beer on one weekend. I'm going to ask them if I can get a copy of that app and send it to Trudeau. We'll call it the Resign Can app. Okay. And we'll save $1 billion by defunding the CBC. That always gets the loudest cheer. So by the way, I'm going to do a quick quiz. How much money has this Trudeau printed in the last 3 years? 600 million. You've already got an apple. You already got a T-shirt. So, all right, she gets the T-shirt. There you go. Great job. Absolutely. Love you back. Thank you very much. We're going to control spending so we can bring down the interest rates, the inflation, but also the taxes. We have a war on work in Canada, where a single mom with 3 kids who goes out and earns an extra dollar loses as much as 80 cents in clawbacks, taxes, gas taxes to get to work. So if she earns 25 bucks an hour, she keeps $5 of the next hour she works. That's the war on work. A common sense conservative government will cut income taxes so that hard work pays off and you bring home more of each dollar you earn. Bring it home. You're going to bring it home, bring home more of your dollar. That dollar will have more purchasing power when you bring it home, but you need a home to bring it to. And right now, our young people can't afford a home at all. How many are living 35 years old in their parents' basement? Many more who believe they'll never be able to move out. I remember speaking to a young man here in Ottawa who has exactly the same job in the federal government as his mother had before she retired. And incidentally, he told me he works in the same office building on the same floor, but he can come nowhere near affording the same house that she brought him up in. Isn't that weird? Do you ever find that bizarre? That we're supposed to do better generation after generation, and yet somehow our kids can't and our grandkids can't afford the homes that their parents and grandparents owned? I've got a buddy who came here from Italy in the early 70s. His mom and dad paved roads. Mom worked at a senior's home making sandwiches. They paid off their mortgage in 7 years. They didn't even speak English. Now, their grandkids, who will have university educations, will have had the benefit of being third generation, could come nowhere near owning the same house in Little Italy near the Civic Hospital. Why is it that our generations are actually doing worse than their parents? That's a good answer. We have the fewest homes per capita in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on, and even though we spend by far the largest share of our economy on residential construction. We spend 9% of our GDP on residential construction, more than twice the 4% that is spent across the OECD, and yet with all of the extra land and all the extra spending, we have the fewest homes. What is standing in the way? Government. Government. Government is standing in the way. The number one cost to building a new home in Vancouver is not land, labor, or lumber. It is government. Government fees, government charges, government delays, government taxes, consultants, lawyers, and so on. The people who are not actually building anything are the most expensive part of the house. My common sense plan will require cities free up land and speed up and lower the cost of permits so that builders can build. We will require municipalities permit 15% more homes per year as a condition of getting their federal infrastructure money. If they beat the target, they'll get a bonus. If they miss the target, they'll pay a fine. And And that's what Matt Luloff has been fighting for at City Hall by speeding up. He's working to speed up the permitting process. We're also going to require that every federally funded transit station be pre-permitted for high-density housing. I mean, I was just in Riverside South the other day. They're putting up this massive station in the middle of a field. Like, I know that Riverside South is well populated, but around the station itself, it's still tumbleweed. There's room for literally thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of housing units that should be built. So this is how I'm going to make sure that that happens. And by the way, that's the fault of the previous mayor, Jim Watson. The current mayor is a good guy, actually. Another liberal who left a big mess behind when he left the job for someone else to clean up. But here's my common sense plan. I'm going to put the federal funds for large transit projects in escrow, in a trust, and the city won't be able to get it until every single station is surrounded by high-density apartments. Occupied. So they're going to have to get bridge financing and fill the place up. We're going to pay for results. Realtors get paid for the number of homes they sell, builders for the number they build. We're going to pay municipalities for the number of homes they permit. Pay for results. We're going to sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, build, build. And you know, it warms my heart. It warms my heart to think of the beautiful family rolling up in their U-Haul to move into their new home in the former headquarters of the CBC. Yeah. And those homes will be in safe neighborhoods again. We're going to stop Trudeau's catch and release policy. We're going to bring in jail and not bail for repeat violent criminals, so that those reoffenders, the return customers that do one crime after another, the good news is we don't have a lot of criminals. The bad news is they are very productive. Very productive. Aren't they, Barbara? Have you seen any return customers? Many. You know them, you're on a first-name basis with them. Yes. Well, tell your friends in blue that they're going to have less business when I'm Prime Minister. How does that sound? You like that? We will make repeat violent offenders ineligible for bail, early parole, or house arrest. It will be jail, not bail, jail, not bail. We will actually tackle the drug crisis. Trudeau has been flooding our streets with taxpayer-funded opioids. He calls it safe supply. Let's get this straight. Let's get this straight. How did the drug crisis happen in the first place? Corrupt? Well, no, in that case, I won't blame him for that. It started because of a bunch of corrupt pharmaceutical companies who saw desperate working-class families in the Rust Belt with suffering people and said, you know what, we can push opioids on them. That'll make them feel happy, and that'll make us a lot of money. We'll tell the medical system that they're safe and non-lethal, and we'll call it OxyContin. And guess what? They paid out bonuses for the number of overdose deaths they caused. Bonuses for killing people. The American government sued them and collected over $52 billion. But what are we doing now? We're giving out taxpayer-funded pharmaceutical opioids. Isn't that what caused the problem in the first place? We're going to stop giving out tax-funded drugs. We're going to put that money into recovery and treatment to bring our loved ones home drug-free. Bring them home. And we're going to secure our borders. We'll secure our borders there. Right now, our Port of Montreal inspects 1% of the shipping containers that come in and go out. That's how the stolen cars are making their way out of our country off to the other side of the Atlantic, and it's how the drugs and guns are coming in. My common sense plan: we'll save money by cutting back on management consultants and put it into boots on the ground so we have more CBSA and scanners to scan the boxes. Stop the theft, stop the crime. And you know how we're going to pay for any excess costs from that? I said there'd be a dollar for dollar rule on that. We're going to cancel Trudeau's multi-billion-dollar gun grab and respect our law-abiding... Our trained, tested, licensed, and law-abiding hunters and sport shooters are not the problem. We know that. We know that because criminals don't go and get a license, right? They don't go through RCMP vetting. And by the way, if Trudeau ever finds out how he's going to do this buyback, he says he still doesn't know how. What, a half decade after he announced it? He still doesn't know how to do the buyback, by his own admission. If he ever did figure it out, the only people who would comply with it are, by definition, law-abiding. So what he's exactly proposing is that guns, all guns, will be totally legal for criminals and totally banned for law-abiding citizens. My friends, Justin Trudeau wants to protect turkeys from hunters. I want to protect Canadians from criminals. And we're going to stand up for our security the most important way possible. We are going to cut back on foreign aid to terrorists, dictators, and multinational bureaucracies. And we will put that money into rebuilding our military and supporting our troops in Canada again. Nous allons rebâtir notre militaire et nous allons appuyer nos troupes ici au Canada. La meilleure façon de promouvoir la liberté et la sécurité, c'est avec notre militaire, pas avec les bureaucraties internationales. The best way to project our values of freedom and security is through a strong international defense. Our military will be rebuilt, and it will stand on guard for all of us. We will, you know, our common sense plan is very easy to summarize. Axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime. Axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. But it's also about restoring our freedom. After 8 years of Trudeau, our freedoms are under attack. Our Prime Minister attacks our people. He calls our small businesses tax cheats. He says our hunters, our First Nations hunters, are American style because they own rifles. He attacks. He divides people, divides Muslims against Jews, Sikhs against Hindus, East against West, French against English, rich against poor. He divides us, vaccinated against unvaccinated. He divides our country so that he can grab control. He believes that if you're afraid of your neighbor, then you'll forget you can't pay your rent. He wants you to be angry at someone else so that you'll forget that he is the one that has ruined your quality of life. My friend, this strategy, he's also attacked parents. He's attacked the rights of parents. My friends, this divide and conquer has to end. That is why common sense conservatives will unite Canada for freedom. We will unite for freedom. We will repeal the censorship laws, C-11. We will protect the rights of parents to protect their kids and stand up for their values on matters. I will ban all of my ministers and MPs from any involvement in the World Economic Forum. We will shut down the Beijing-controlled police stations. We will ban the Iranian-controlled terrorist group, the IRGC. And we will stand with our Jewish friends and neighbors against the terrible scourge of anti-Semitism. My friends, with how terrible things have gotten, it's easy to forget all the blessings that have been bestowed upon this country. With as much as the Prime Minister tries to divide one from the other and tries to turn us against each other and forget our past, it's easy to forget all that we had, how good it was and how much better it can be. So let me paint the picture for you of children living safely, playing safely in their streets as they walk off to school. Their parents no longer worried about the dangers of crime in their neighborhood. Of seniors driving home from the grocery store with groceries in their trunk and change in their pocket. Of soldiers strapping on the finest of equipment and having the best technology. Of a small business owned by a couple, closing down the business after one more successful day of cash in the till, of happy employees, and of a safe storefront they don't have to worry will be broken into. Of local legionnaires, maybe from the Barhaven or Manotick Legion, sweeping away the debris and planting fresh flowers at the local cenotaph in honor of the community's fallen but not forgotten. And as the sun goes down over the beautiful cornfields of North Gore, we can hear in the village kids playing their last 10 more minutes of street hockey before mom and dad call them back to bed. And then silence. And a young couple sit on their front porch, soaking in the beautiful summer air with a Canadian flag hanging proudly from the front of their brand new home. And in the calm and the country air, their eyes meet in a way that can only mean we made it. We did it. The promise of Canada has been kept. All the hard work has paid off because finally we're home. These are our people. That is our country. This is our home, your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home.